Welcome to the Reckless Podcast with Aaron and Domo. We're two old friends who went to middle school and high school together. We're roommates in college. And today we have a special guest. We have the jerk behind the camera, our producer. Jerod joins us on camera today. Welcome, Jerod, to the Reckless Podcast.
See, what you don't know is Domo was supposed to be doing a better intro than me. And I said the same thing.
No, you didn't. Trust me. You did not say anything. Hey, what is our intro supposed to be? That's what you said. Come on, man.
Okay, all right, whatever.
So Jerod joins us today.
Yes.
And he's definitely a big part of what we do to record, produce, and
play with Sozo, obviously.
Sozo, get down.
And to so he's a part of our conversation, and so we just wanted to have him on camera and introduce him to you all. So welcome, Jerod. Good to have you here.
Well, I've always been here, but thank you for
you haven't been
putting me here, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. He resisted a little bit.
Well, I think it's good to have him on for people to see his face because
absolutely
throughout the season we're going to have shots of him and, he's going to have his input and everything. So, it's good to get to know you.
Yeah, it's funny because half the time you guys talk, I think about stuff I would say. And I just think in my head, well, I guess I'm not going to say anything now. And then I'll keep my 2 cents to myself. And sometimes I have a joke that I'll laugh about to myself.
Yeah, we see you laughing a lot with the camera. We'll see you giggling.
Yeah, it's some funny stuff, man. I'm trying to tell you. Some of the stuff y'all do is stupid. But then I think
why gotta be stupid?
Thanks,
it's stupid
why
like
can't
funny.
It just be funny?
Stupid like funny. And so,
Stupid
jumped
like
out.
funny.
We just jumped on.
He is the jerk behind the camera, right? Yeah, but I'll say it like this, man. I look at stuff like this, and I say, man, it's always interesting to have your own opinion about it. And no matter what you talk about, everybody has their own opinion.
Absolutely.
And so no matter how similar or opposite it is, it's always interesting to add another opinion to a conversation.
Right.
Because some of the stuff I say is completely different or completely inappropriate to say, but it's just another opinion to a conversation that people think but won't say.
I think the two of us are way more conservative than you are.
Oh, yeah. But it fits because
it works.
It's the Reckless Podcast.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll probably bring the Reckless to the podcast.
Yeah.
So I was thinking over the weekend, we probably should discuss more about Reckless.
Right.
And so, and what I kind of wanted to do is take the show on the angle of providing people, I guess, an insight on people with reckless pursuit, and with good intentions, and they're going after things at all costs, which was the main reason why we wanted to do this podcast, is to add our voice in conversation and also, highlight people and things that are going on in the world that is just, really trying to make a difference.
Right.
But then you got the reckless behavior. Like, you got the people who are just crazy and silly and doing stupid stuff.
Well, you know what? It's funny that you bring that up. I really, really like anime. I don't know when it happened, but I watch a lot of anime on Netflix. Right now, although I'm probably like 10 years late, I'm finally watching Naruto. And so you don't even know.
I do.
Oh,
yeah,
you do?
I've never watched it, but I heard it was like
it's really good.
Dragon Ball Z.
So
it ain't better than Dragon Ball Z.
I think
yeah, I agree.
We don't have to. If we talk about anime, we'll probably have to create a whole segment about anime.
Yeah, and apparently I won't be a part of it. All I know is Dragon Ball Z.
Well, the point that I was making before we get completely sidetracked is that one of the things that a lot of anime shows do, a lot of Japanese shows do, is that they'll say don't overdo it when they talk to the hero character. Really, just saying don't be so reckless for your life or reckless about your life that you get yourself killed or you hurt yourself. And I think it's interesting that you bring that up because at the end of the day, when I think about being reckless, I think about doing something that probably isn't in conventional logic, isn't the best thing to do or not the safest thing to do. But when you watch those anime shows, typically if that character wasn't reckless or didn't overdo it, they wouldn't have become the hero.
Exactly.
And so it's an interesting concept because part of human nature is to have self-preservation.
Right.
Whether it be socially, physically, emotionally. But at the same time, self-preservation doesn't create a reckless behavior. And sometimes a reckless behavior is the only way that you can become a hero of sorts.
Yeah,
So,
you gotta take risks.
Absolutely,
definitely gotta take risks.
That's definitely what we want to instill in people. We want people to understand about what we're doing is that sometimes you got to do something that just seems so far out there to achieve your purpose, to achieve all that you're destined to do.
like quit your job.
Yeah, absolutely. Like quit your job and be an entrepreneur. It's a big deal, but there's sometimes when you have to, take that leap of faith and make a big jump in order to really, feel like you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. You gotta, go back to school, or it's just a lot.
I'm not about to quit my job though. Just quick heads up.
Yeah, just FYI.
Just
for your wife. What you doing?
No, I'm still working.
You don't want that trouble.
No, but when you bring the reason why I said that is because who was it? A coworker of mine. I was telling him how I'm really into writing and I really want to pursue it and things like that. And he was saying he watched an interview of this guy. And he said, I didn't really become who I became until I decided to quit my job and do ministry full time. And it's funny because the nature, and I've heard this so many times, like what happens to people is they decide their whole life, I want to do X. But I don't have the resources or finances to do X. So because I can't fund it now, I'm just going to play it safe, get me a regular job, and try to do it on the side.
Right.
And which is kind of happening to me. And I think about like the fact that a lot of those people end up being like, they become leaders at their church and they do what they wanted to do, but they only do it at church and they never get the opportunity to do it full time because
really
they never prepared themselves to do it full time either. They were like, I just need to make enough money so that I can do this full time. Well, how are you going to do it full time if you haven't created a strategy of wealth so that you can make money without?
And I think that's the key right there is creating a strategy, because I think it can work in both ways
you
where
gotta
you quit your job and you're forced to survive and eat, or you can have a plan, have a strategy where you have a job that's a means to where you need to go, and you have a storehouse that you're creating an opportunity for yourself. So when you do jump out and do that, you already have the funds, or it's already lucrative in the sense where you're able to, or powerful enough in order for you to do what you need to do. And
I know I'm not the host, but I really want to talk about strategy now, like just the theory of strategy, especially in the kingdom of God, because that's something I don't think that a lot of us do.
You sure you're not the host?
I could be.
right, you took over the show.
Shoot,
but
I tell y'all what to do behind the camera.
Right.
I think that's a great direction to go, especially with Domo here. He's an organizational guru.
I'm trying to be.
and I think to set the table, I think that a good way to embrace strategy and embrace risk is to first be comfortable with failure.
Absolutely.
And
that's tough for the church to do. It's tough for any organization to do legitimately, but it's really tough for the church to do because, our mission is divine. So there's so much to lose. There's souls at stake. And so,
but then you have to define what's failure.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, like, this is what I think. Like, I go to a church who will remain nameless for sake of, other people's.
Yeah, we got it.
But one of the things I notice is, like, there are certain things that we could be doing, but if we live, and I don't know if this is true or not because I'm not in those conversations, but if we live under the guise of we don't want to fail, like, are we saying we don't want to lose membership base? Are we saying we don't want to waste money?
Oh, this getting heavy.
Are we saying we don't?
It's complex.
Right. Yeah. Are we saying that because to me, failure is I didn't do what God's plan for me was. And if I feel like I need to wait on God's plan because I haven't found the means to do it, then I'm probably not following God's plan. Now, if I put that in my own life, I need to slap myself up and go repent. And I probably will after this when I think about it.
You pulling out your own stuff.
Yeah, because I'm trying to tell you, man, as much as I like anime, I like video games, man. They suck so much time out of your life, man. But listen.
Yeah, man.
And that brings in the next lesson, the discipline.
Right.
Absolutely.
So.
That's so grounded.
It was.
Yeah. Oh, you don't like discipline, huh?
Right.
We wasn't talking about that kind of discipline.
That's how I feel too, bro.
Yeah, but I think to me, the biggest thing for the church, especially when it comes to like being able to be that next level church, is being able to take a risk that can affect the change, good or bad initially, but like take the jump at least. Take the leap. I mean, think about the disciples, for example. Jesus was like to Peter and Andrew. I think that those are the brothers, right? He was just like, come and follow me. These guys were fishermen. They had just caught the biggest catch of their careers as fishermen. And he's like, come and follow me. They're about to hit a big payday. He's like, come follow me. Forsake all of that financial gain. Forsake all of that and follow me.
But to not make this just about the church, I mean, when you're talking about people who have professions and have goals outside of, the church, how do you approach risk and strategy?
It depends on what you're comfortable with then. Because, like, in my opinion, like, I've been married maybe a year and a half now.
Not sure.
It was November, so I guess we're coming up on a year and a half. I think June would make it a year and a half. So what I think about is, like, now I have a family, I bought a house. Is failure having to sell my house? Is failure having to move in with my parents? Or is failure not meeting my objectives or meeting my goals? And then the conversation really comes into play. Did I communicate with my wife, this is what we're changing what our goals are? Right. Because if you change what your goals are, then the issue really isn't about did we fail or not. It's did we try? Because, I mean, think about it like this. So, like Denzel, for example, he was being supported by his wife.
Right.
I think she was a lawyer or something, so, I mean, a little bit easier than, if she worked at Walmart. But she supported the family until he made it as an actor. He didn't stop acting because he hadn't made money yet. So there's a Christian rapper. His name is Swoop. His whole name is, I think, is like Alan Swoop. And so
I never knew that.
Yeah, Alan Swoop. So he has a song on, I think, his latest album. No, it's actually on a mixtape. And he was saying that when he wasn't making any money, his wife told him to continue to pursue his dream.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. So to me, when we go back to whether or not, what do we do if we fail? The question really is, what do you define as failure?
Right. And I think that goes into setting goals, objectives.
Exactly.
And you in project management, that body of knowledge indicates that you have to do a risk analysis. You have to.
Do you want to just come to my house after this and we can just set a 5-year plan?
No, really. Like, this is the kind of stuff that people should be doing for their own lives.
Right.
It's the type of thing that ministry should be doing. Organizations, if you want to start a business, you can't start a business plan without assessing your risk. You have to. A SWOT analysis is a good thing.
Oh, I heard of that. Yeah, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats.
Yeah,
I was gonna say targets, but obviously it's not targets.
Yeah,
just say it.
It's an interesting concept though. Yeah. Targets. That's a good one.
That's good.
But
just
you
put that
have
in your notes.
Right.
Put that in with the Jerodisms.
Right, Jerodisms.
It's actually
jerk behind the camera isms.
It's funny enough. It's probably a hashtag, a very unpopular hashtag of Jerodism somewhere.
Are you serious?
Probably. I'm just saying from y'all.
That.
I'm just saying it.
Yeah, I think we should start that.
We probably should start that.
We should start that.
Jerodism. Hashtag Jerodisms.
Right.
Jerodism.
You're going to make sure we spell it right, huh?
Hashtag
Jerodism number 2.
All right, so let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. I emailed a lady with my signature at the bottom of the name, introduced myself, I'm Jerod, last name, and so she responds and spells my name wrong. In the same, like, somebody from my job did it one time. Like, hey, I sent a message on Instant Messenger. My name shows up next to my message. Still spell my name wrong.
Well, what's bad is that
that's why I spell my name.
My name is spelled the girl way. Dominique.
You know, I never noticed that.
And so people a lot of times in email will respond, miss. Thank you, ma'am, or miss, and I'll say, I'm a guy, right. And you're welcome.
But crazy enough, with my name being, you would think is one of the most common names.
Aaron.
People still say, is it spelled Erin?
No,
or,
not if
I actually lived on a street named Erin.
I get it all the time, and it makes no sense to me. And I guess they're not teaching that in schools anymore. There's a girl way and a boy way of spelling Aaron.
Right.
I just think it's disrespectful not to try to spell or pronounce someone's name right.
Maybe they were starstruck by you, and they were just.
This
nervous.
is over email. Come on, let's not do this.
I'm
let's
emailing
the
most famous Jerod.
Actually, there's some pretty famous Jerods. You know.
Oh, okay.
Me, myself, and Irene, the fat guys that were his sons. One of his names is Jerod.
Who?
For Me, Myself, and Irene. Remember?
Yeah, I remember. I never knew those guys had names.
I looked up. These are just random people, nameless people. No, I just looked it up one day because I was
Those three
curious.
guys were hilarious in that movie.
Yeah, but so
I can't
there's
remember that movie.
there's another famous Jerod named Jerod Mayo. He just retired, but he played middle
I thought
linebacker for
they
the New
said
England Patriots.
Jerod Mayo.
No, his
heard
name
of
is
Jerod.
Jerod Mayo. He
heard
spells it
him
the
say
exact same way.
I never noticed that.
Yeah, a lot of people, a lot of different cultured people. That was really politically correct, right? That
I
was good.
guess.
But there are a lot of people that have never seen Jerod before, and so they automatically assume it's Jerod.
It's Jerod,
But
yeah.
if you just use the lessons you learned when it comes to vowel pronunciation,
Oh snap!
Did you just go phonetics on that?
I actually took a phonetics class. I took 2. So yes, I
Because
did.
you were you minoring in speech pathology?
Yeah, I was. Well,
Really?
it was an unofficial minor. I didn't take the exact coursework to get the minor.
Like
'Cause
me, I
got a knowledge
minored
base.
in philosophy, but I couldn't get in the last class, so I just dropped the minor and graduated. It was too
Yeah, I
much
hear
work.
you, man. I mean, but to get back on track in terms of having goals, and having missions and stuff like that, what you believe God set you on this earth for, I think it's interesting when once you get past, what's failure, then getting to a strategy is very important in terms of a plan of
Absolutely.
action. Because for me, like when it comes to what I want to do, my number one goal first is to do a little bit of work and gain experience in all the core functions that I need to have. But it's also being able, with my job, to create finances that I can utilize to create residual income so that I do not have to depend on a job to work. Because if I really want to do what I want to do, I won't have the time to work 8 hours. I won't have the mental space to work an 8-hour-a-day job, drive for an hour in, drive for an hour out, and then still spend 3-4 hours a day working.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
No, I mean, and that's a good plan to have. You definitely want to have residual income because it makes life easier.
Yeah, pray for me.
You know, and then you start building wealth and creating a dynasty with your family, so that they don't have to
Right.
work as hard, in the future.
And wealth building seems to be such a hot topic these days.
It's necessary.
Excuse me, especially with people like Donald Trump in the media
Right.
and other people who have been kind of successful and are trying to teach wealth building, especially to African Americans. When I think about Boyce Watkins, who's a PhD in finance, and he does a lot of work to try to help African Americans understand some of these principles that you don't have to work a 9 to 5 every day to survive.
Right.
You can start your own business. You can do some venture capitalist type of stuff and create wealth. Real estate is an option, but it's not the only option
Right.
for people to build wealth.
Very good point.
And it just seems like
all the black people be like, let me just own some property and get some renters.
yeah, I mean,
And I'd be like, come on, man. What happens when they
it's-
leave? You just stuck
it's
with a
an
mortgage.
option, right? It's an option, but
it is
we
an
can't,
option. And real
lean
estate
on
is
it
a
like
big
that's
market.
it.
Yeah. I mean, you always got to have a place to live.
Absolutely.
100%. You can't live on the, well, you can live on the street, but that's another
I
conversation.
just think that we should think beyond what we're thinking in a
Right.
sense. Like you said, the first thought that comes up when it comes to real estate is to get a house and put renters in there. Why not get a house and flip it? Why
Right.
not
That's a
go
good
into
point.
commercial real estate? Why
Actually, I
not go
thought about
into-
that. If I had to choose another profession, I would probably choose commercial real
Exactly.
estate.
So why stop at the surface level opportunity and not go beyond that?
Because
And
it's
so-
the renting seemingly has the least amount of risk. It actually doesn't. It has probably the greatest
it's probably
risk.
the
It's
more
probably the greatest risk. I
because
agree.
I know in a lot of
Think
states.
about You're like, yeah, I'm about to make a whole bunch of money renting this
And
property.
they tear your stuff up.
Yeah, I've heard of multiple stories of people tearing their stuff up and then also not being able to legally get people out
Right.
if they're not
Right,
paying.
they're not paying.
Yeah,
That's-
and
that's
so
right.
You
I
know,
mean,
my parents actually rented before the economy crashed. My parents owned 2 houses. The house we lived in when I was younger, grew up, and then we moved to the house my parents live in now. And so I actually talked to my parents about it, or my mother about it, and she was saying that when it came down to it, the reason why they didn't make any money off of the property itself was because they didn't want to raise the rates on their tenant because
Right.
they were too. they were too soft. I'm gonna be honest with you.
I mean,
I'd have been like, hey, look,
But that's
10% every year. Just be prepared.
That's
a
tough
grip
dilemma.
of 10% every year.
Well, just a number.
You a
Yeah,
slum
people
lord.
don't even get 10% raises anymore.
No, I mean,
Like average raise, I think is 2%.
The cost of living
these
hasn't gone
days.
up that. Well, it
Well,
has gone up.
well,
but
10% was.
salaries haven't gone up.
I'm sorry. 10% was very aggressive. I'm sorry. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
yeah, we know.
Fictitious and imaginary tenants. I apologize for becoming a slumlord in 3 seconds. I'm not the guy that used to own the Clippers.
Man,
Yeah,
we still haven't figured out his name. What was his name?
Donald
Oh,
Sterling.
Sterling.
Donald
We
Sterling.
Here we
supposed to look
go.
at that man's name, what, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what the point that I'm making is with my parents, what they were saying was they weren't turning a big enough profit for it to become profitable to rent a property. But the problem is once they sold the property, if you don't put that money, and I read this from Rich Dad Poor Dad, if you don't,
I bought that, but haven't read it yet.
it's an
It's really
insightful
good.
book.
It's an easy read.
Yeah. You made me lose my. But when you buy a property, when you sell a property, excuse me, once you sell it, if you don't put that money into something, if you don't put it into a different property or you put it into a company, capital gains will tax that money at a very high rate. They might even take half.
Wow.
And so if you think about it, if you flip houses, which is not a bad deal, you always have to make sure you're putting that money into another house.
Right.
Yeah, but you want to make sure you have capital too, because I mean, even when you watch Flip or Flop,
Yeah, I
a lot
love
of
that
times
show.
they don't have. A lot of times they don't have all the capital to do the flips.
But see, I think that's a common misconception. And the way they do that show, they make you think they're doing one house at a time. If you really pay attention to the show, they're doing multiple houses.
Sometimes they'll have a different contract to come in because the other one's tied up in another.
Right. So
they have.
the trick is to understand how much money you have at a particular time that you can utilize.
Exactly.
And so what any smart investor will tell you is never tie up 100% of your funds into one opportunity because you never know. Like I've watched them flip a house and they thought that the house was worth X amount of dollars by the amount once they finished doing all the work.
Yeah.
They're negative into the property and they're like, we just need to get out of it.
And I think that shows, in my opinion, that shows poor planning.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think that's a lot. It happens.
It is.
A
I mean,
lot.
have you seen Tark?
Oh my God.
I'm sorry.
We like you, Tark. Actually, he's supposed to be in Baltimore or something.
I think he
Come on
has
the show.
he has really great
And fight
initiative.
Jerod.
He gonna
Did
insult
you
the
see
man.
him? It's like-
No, I mean he just seems like one of those guys that he makes an idea in his head and he just runs with it. It's nothing wrong with that, but he doesn't seem like the planner of the couple.
And that's the beauty of marriage too. I mean, we're going into another topic, but it's the beauty of marriage. You have another counterpart who can actually cover your weaknesses in that area.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
a simple plug for my wife.
Yeah, my wife too. I love you, baby.
I love you better.
I am married.
He's not trying to. I
I
love
don't
you
know how I
better.
feel. I love you better.
I love you better, man.
He doesn't know how I love my wife. He's just saying.
Does Aaron have on his ring this time?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, okay. I thought she was
Just-
going to
just-
punch you.
I was joking.
Yeah, so just to go back into the conversation we were having about strategy, there's something that someone said, I don't know where I picked it up, maybe from the radio. They were saying that these young people under 30, maybe 25, some number, they make a plan, they make plans and they overestimate what they can do in a year. But then they underestimate what they can do over 5 years. And I think it's very interesting because I think our concept of reality plays a very big role in the things that we can do in our lives. And I think that's probably the realest thing that you can ever think about because there's some stuff you can't account for. And if you don't account for the stuff you don't account for, you're probably not going to be able to be as successful as you'd like to be.
And again, going back to the society we live in, instant. Everything's fast. Everything's quick. And so we expect that out of ourselves. And it makes us put ourselves in that category of quick, instant, and fast.
Yeah.
And we don't realize that we're human beings, that sometimes it takes a process. It takes,
Absolutely,
an
it
experience.
takes a few years to actualize a goal.
Exactly.
Ooh, yeah.
It's
And-
tough.
God told me this a really long time ago, and I still live by it. He told me to take the approach of a seed. So, like, if you think about a seed, any type of seed.
Seed time and harvest.
Right. So the first thing that a seed does before it does anything is it has to go in the ground, and according to the Bible, it dies. But it takes root in the ground. Doesn't do nothing above the ground. Nobody sees the seeds. Seeds are taking root.
Right.
They get their roots grown in real deep, and after the seeds are grown deep, then they spring up. And there are different types of seeds. So, like, for example, bamboo. Bamboo could be in the ground for 5 years before it ever sprouts up.
Yeah.
So, but think how reliable that plant is now because it spent all that time delivering its roots deeper.
Yeah.
And so then that takes it into development to yourself. And if you never take the time to develop yourself and you think you're going to grow up, I know another camera went out. But the thing that makes it very, very important to me is the more I develop myself, the more I grow, the more I focus on who I am and what God wants to do with me, the less I'm worried about when the fruit comes.
Right.
The less I'm worried about that stuff because I know if I take the approach of a seed, eventually a seed has no choice but to become a tree or whatever plant it is. And so if you just take the approach, I need to make sure my water, I get my nutrients, make sure I get my roots deep. Finally, you'll spring up. Once you spring up, it's a whole different ball game.
And then,
go ahead.
Oh, and then you also got to think about the pruning process as well. Sometimes you have to take a step back, and stuff has to be cut off and removed, and so you can spring forward even further. And I think and that goes even more so to that 5-year mark of, it took a year for me to grow, but then, hey, it's going to take me a couple more years to get to where I need to go because I have to take some steps back and I have to prune and I have to fix some things in order for me to get even further.
And then momentum is a very big part of that too.
Yeah. Right. And you were about to say something.
Yeah, I was about to say that a lot of times what gets us caught up is that we live in a society that's not just microwave, but we're also so comparative. And so we're always trying to compare ourselves to, I'm comparing where I am to where Jerod is right now.
Right.
Or
so
imagine if you're a singer and you compare yourself to where like Justin Bieber is and you're like, well, I'll never make it.
Well, I don't like Justin Bieber.
But I'm just saying.
I don't ever want to be where he is.
or like
Drake,
or like Drake, or
that's real.
People that are that, you know what I'm saying?
They had popular and famous.
Right, but their process was their process, and you can't really compare what you are doing and what you have to go through to where they are now because you have no idea how long they were
or
underground.
how they got there.
Right.
And I think that I think God is so good in the sense that He created us with all different types of DNA, all different types of
personalities,
but fingerprints. Like He literally told us, hey, no one can do it like you can. No one can even look like you. No one can even
do it like me.
Exactly. And so He's telling. It's so obvious. It's so obvious in the makeup of who we are, individuals, and as individuals. But sometimes we don't even realize it, and we keep striving at the other people's goals and striving at the other people's success. Why would we have to do that, from a mentality standpoint, if we don't even look like that person? We don't even have the same DNA. We don't even have the same fingerprints.
Right.
It's American culture too. I mean, and you can go real back, but my favorite one, because it's the easiest to do, is I want to be like Mike.
Right.
There ain't no way you're gonna be like Michael Jordan. Ain't nobody gonna be like. You ain't gonna get a series of shoes that become. You're not gonna become a billionaire because you play basketball and created a brand after yourself. You're not gonna be. Well, you could do that. CP3, LeBron, whoever. But,
I was thinking actually LeBron kind of did a lot of that.
Yeah, but even still, LeBron's still not Mike because LeBron isn't 6-0 in the finals.
Exactly.
No shade. Okay, a little shade.
Yeah, you put the Wizards out a few years. I mean,
I'm not even that big. All right, the point that I'm making is
we'll be going down.
Right.
We spend so much time trying to compare ourselves to other people that we're nothing like, that it puts a damper on who we actually are.
Right.
I mean, even like I think about growing up, and there's always that one guy who all the girls like. No matter what school you went to, there's always like 2 or 3 guys that all the girls like, and you like, what did he do that's different than what I did? Nothing. He's just the one that they chose, for example. You can't, even if you could be like that, you still can't be like that. You know what I'm saying? And so that's something that I really started to focus on in myself. Is like, look, this is what it is. I tell myself often I'm a late bloomer, which is really true for a lot of cases. So, just
but and I think once people come to that understanding.
What, man?
Once you come to that,
he's just trying to deflect on me. I didn't do anything.
Whatever. Once you come to that realization, I think it's a beautiful thing because with that comes confidence. Yeah. And then once you have confidence, you can pretty much take on the world. Absolutely. You can take on everything because confidence builds faith, and faith, has the power to move mountains, and so in general, I think we just have a bunch of people in the world who don't have confidence in themselves.
Absolutely.
And they don't have confidence in themselves because they don't understand that they are who they are.
And the culture doesn't allow for you to build confidence in yourself by the way it's created.
Right. Culture is very critical of everything you do, and anything you do, even if well-intentioned, can be flipped to be so, evil looking. So that's why the Reckless Podcast is important.
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us on the Reckless Podcast. We look forward to having you watch our future episodes.
Yeah.
And we appreciate Jerod for stepping from behind the camera and coming on.
For sure. Thanks, man.
And Domo, once again, it was nice co-hosting with you. We plan on, having other guests on and to actually talk about professional roles and how to pursue your goals and help you make wise decisions as you move forward in your life and pursuing your purpose. And, we just want to have fun.
Right.
And enjoy it.
That was pretty evident with these last outtakes.
Indeed. So follow, subscribe, like, and join us next time on the Reckless Podcast.
Make sure you comment.
And subscribe.
Definitely subscribe. I mean, do both.
Okay.
Do them. My friends, and some people started watching it, not knowing what it was, and they'll continue watching it forever just because this
Michael
is the
Jordan
show.
mean face. Michael Jordan mean face.